This episode, is Evo missing a golden opportunity? Is it time to return to Sea of Thieves and No Man's Sky? And No Man's Sky? And what can Apple do after $1 trillion? All this and more as we reach our next stop, the PCC Multiverse. And we're back with another episode of the PCC Multiverse. My name is Gerald Glassford from Pop Culture Cosmos and Game Source. We truly appreciate everything that you do as far as supporting all of our social media and, of course, listening to all of our awesome shows. But it wouldn't be a PCC Multiverse without my good friend. He is the orchestrator of Humanica Media. You got to check out everything going on today at humanicamedia.com, Humanica Media on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. It's my good friend. It's Josh Peterson. Long drive back home, my friend, but I finally made it.
Yep, going from California to Nevada. How do you feel, man? What was the hours behind the wheel there?
Today was around 9, I think. Yeah, around 9 heading over to here. But all told, I think I spent roughly about 17 to 20 hours, I guess, total over the past week. So I give all props to all those truckers out there or people out there who do a lot of driving for a living, and got nothing but love for you and respect for you. It's because, like I said, I did quite a bit of it myself this past week, so I really got a good feel for what life on the open road is truly like.
You thinking about a career change here?
No, I still like the pop culture. I still like the pop culture cosmos very much. Thank you very much. But we do have a great episode coming up for you here today. We've got a double dose of Rob McCallum. He's coming up not only after our first conversation, but also later in the show with some great pop culture topics. Plus, we've got talk about the major updates that have come to No Man's Sky and Sea of Thieves. And we ask the question, and we'll answer it also, is it time to get back into those two? I guess probably the best way to say it is initially very hyped up but disappointing video games. And last but not least, we're going to close out the show talking about Apple. They recently hit over $1 trillion as far as their market value. That's right, over $1 trillion. They're only the second company ever in history to go over $1 trillion in value. We'll talk a little bit about the structure of Apple and everything that's went on into getting $1 trillion. Plus, also for the future, what can Apple do that can actually get them more involved with the community and actually earn them even more dollars if that's possible. But first, it's Evo weekend, and I want to give first a shout out to one of our contributors on the show. That is Christian Daniel Zamudio. He is competing this weekend at Evo, the World Fighting Championships taking place here in Las Vegas, Nevada. And I wish him the best of luck in his category that he is competing against. And if you get a chance to check out all the action, please check out Christian Daniel Zamudio if you get a chance, and he pops up on one of the actual one of the actual matches that's going on. Just want to wish him all the best this weekend. Josh, the reason why I'm asking about Evo once again, and I pretty much do this once every year when it comes to Evo, we like to spend a little bit of time talking about how pop culture has transcended into video games and how video games has transcended into, I guess, popular culture as well. There's a lot of video games now that are out on the marketplace that are, I guess, gaining popularity by leaps and bounds. We obviously know the success of Fortnite, and also as well PUBG, League of Legends, also Overwatch as well. Many of those titles, including Rainbow Six, Call of Duty, and others, have had their time in the sun when it comes to major network television, as far as either broadcast or cable being shown and being sent out as far as the the matches, the games, in fact, in the case of the Overwatch League, being shown to thousands upon thousands, including millions, and you might as well say millions of fans out there on broadcast and cable television. So I ask you, Evo is still, from what I can tell, and I looked at it, it's going to be played all weekend long on Twitch, which is fine. It caters to a certain group that will watch it. Probably about what they'll probably stream, at least get a couple million via the streaming network and whatnot. Repeat viewers hopping in and out, things of that nature. So it will cater to that fighting, those fans of the fighting genre. But I see, but personally, I see a missed opportunity in the fact that some of these matches for the games that are being represented, and there's quite a few, obviously Super Mario Brother, Super Smash Brothers, Street Fighter is obviously going to be represented as well, Killer Instinct, and among others. But these games, especially the finals of these tournaments, are not going to be shown on a major platform as far as broadcast or cable television. To get that next step of eyes, the general consumer, which I've said is truly needed for the esports genre to really take off full time. There are some games that are doing it right now. I'll ask you, Josh, why do you think that Evo has not taken that next step and, well, like the actual Evo title itself, evolved into something greater that appeals to a wider and, I guess, more prolific audience?
Because I think they're testing the landscape right now. You look at Fortnite. Fortnite it was popular amongst a subculture of people like us who play games and talk about games, but it's fine. I was just reading an article earlier today that talked about how parents are hiring Fortnite coaches for their kids because they want to be professional streamers, professional Fortnite players, and so on, which is a really weird thing if you think about it. But I think games, because of games like Fortnite, PUBG, and I would even go as far to say Call of Duty, these are finally now being brought into the public spotlight as opposed to a spotlight that was only seen by a certain group of people. So now, with Evo, I think that it's inevitable. It's only a matter of time before they get brought into the public eye. But there you tell people about um, video games potentially being in the Olympics one day, and there are a group of people who will be like, oh, that'd be really cool. But there's still a group of people who are like, I don't see that. I think that's stupid. So I think that in order for something like Evo to be on network television, to have the finals be televised like that, it's gonna take a little bit of time. As we were talking about earlier, these gaming competitions are being picked up by stations like Disney, and they're being played on what Disney XD, I think it is. It's gaining momentum, and it's only a matter of time before it does get the spotlight that we're hoping that it will get. But I don't think the fact that they're not showing certain things on certain channels right now really means anything, especially with the dawn of, like I said, Fortnite and all these Twitch and all these people who are now, like, you have kids now who want, when you ask them what they want to be when they grow up, they're saying, I want to be a Twitch streamer. So I think it's really just a matter of time before we find ourselves in a situation where Evo is, played on like ESPN or one of the other big sporting stations. So I don't think it's bad that it's not on right now. I think it will be in due time.
Uh, I think it actually is time for it to appear on major network. I've, 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 I, I think it's about time it actually appears on a major network. Right now, there is a lot of there has been actual fighting games, a Mortal Kombat tournament, things of that nature that have appeared on major networks, both broadcast and cable television. So I believe it is the time for Evo to have been shown on a larger platform than just Twitch. Obviously, the majority of the games should still be shown always on Twitch, but the finals, I think, should have taken place and been shown on an even larger platform, so it would have reached a larger audience. And that's, for any of the games that are out there, whether, and the games that are going to be played in the tournament for Evo include Guilty Gear Xrd Rev 2, also as well Street Fighter 5 Arcade Edition, Tekken 7, Super Smash Brothers, Super Smash Brothers Melee, Super Smash Brothers Wii U, BlazBlue Cross Tag Battle, Dragon Fighter Z, and Injustice 2. Any of those games could have been shown on a major platform, and I think done very well. And probably Super Smash Brothers, either the Melee or the Super Smash Brothers for the Wii U, or Street Fighter 5 Arcade Edition, that really would have gotten things over the hump because of the familiarity people have with these games, those games specifically. And I think that would have given the impetus for a larger audience. And even if it just gets a 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, that's at least to me a beginning and a setup for even greater years, like you were talking about, that Evo needs to, well, pardon the pun, evolve into in order to be a major platform. Because if not, I think they are falling behind two other games that are doing a lot better job of promoting their products.
Yeah, but like I said, it's a risk on their part. So why, I think the thinking is they're testing the waters. They're still testing the waters. They have been for a long time. You're correct in that. But it's still, y- are people going to watch this, or are we wasting time by not putting on something that will get the viewer numbers and hopefully capture the advertisers on those shows? So I see their hesitancy, but like you said, you won't know unless you try. So I don't know, man. It's I see why they're not doing it, but at the same time, they're never really going to know how successful it will be. It's not going to reach its potential if it's not given the chance to.
Let me ask you this as a fellow gamer, and I know you have been reluctant to really dip your toe or even dive into the waters when it comes to esports. Would there be a game, whether it be a fighting genre, RPG genre, first person shooter, that may get you involved with watching, at least on some sort of casual level, with the esports genre? I mean, because right now, Evo tournament, this is their big thing of the year. These are their world championships, and there is no other bigger time of the year for the fighting game genre industry as far as the video game marketplace is concerned. So I ask you, is there something gamer, as a gamer and also a casual fan, is there something that might even remotely get you involved into watching it, not necessarily on Twitch, but on a major platform like an ESPN, TNT, TBS, channels that actually show esports at this present time?
I would have to be like a Halo or Gears of War because those are the only two games I really play in multiplayer right now. As far as like a fighting game, I haven't really played a lot of fighting games in a while. I see why people like them and I like to watch them, but I don't go out of my way to watch them, if that makes sense.
Is there anything that might get you involved with the fighting games as far as maybe a bigger prize pool, bigger celebrities involved? Is there something that they need to do to reach out to a general fan? So maybe even if you have a remote interest in the fighting game genre, that might actually get you even to watch 10, 20 minutes of it?
This is kind of risky, but I would say if you gave people, like a download code for something. So like if they made fighting games more accessible, there's not really, Nintendo Switch has, Dragon Ball Z Xenoverse, I think is the one out on it right now. But, if they made fighting games more accessible and then when they had these big events, do something where you can get a free code to play this game or something like a demo or something. So people at least like for me personally, I don't truly appreciate games until I play them. Like I can watch. I remember being as a kid, like I would watch people play Tekken Tag Tournament, and I didn't truly like it was cool, yeah, but I didn't truly understand why they were so hyped about it until I played it myself.
Well, I know I mean, those are some great thoughts. I can agree with you on many of them because when you give incentives to the consumer to watch your program, oftentimes that will work, at least to getting them to buy in initially. And then it's up to you as a producer, as a content maker, to keep them involved and invested into watching whatever it is you're trying to deliver. I uh, I remember we were talking about Fortnite earlier, and I know that the Pro-Am tournament that they had recently at E3 was a big success. And I believe, as far as the ratings were concerned, as far as the number of eyes that were on it watching streaming media while this was happening, was a really big win for Epic and Fortnite. So I would see something of that nature with, I guess, celebrities from all walks, as far as either entertainment, sports, what have you, getting involved with major fighters in, like, let's say, a Tekken Tag tournament. And to me, that would actually really be something special if they could go ahead and do that, or just have a celebrity tournament in and of itself. That might actually, running side by side with a professional tournament, that might actually get people to cross over and bleed over into watching the professional tournament. If, let's say, some entertainers and some well-known sports celebrities actually face off each other in their own fighting game type championships to any local charity or what have you. So I think that might also entice some people to actually watch your product as well, and see if that can actually get some eyes. Maybe not, even if it's not in just the long term, but at least get them invested in the short term as well. But I like your offer as far as trying to give incentives, not necessarily bribes per se, but reasons for them to watch, which will be tangible for them to go ahead and then utilize and play for themselves. So that's a great idea as well. One last thing I want to ask you while we're talking about Evo and World Championship, whatnot, are the games that I have mentioned, and I'm going to mention once again, that you can see this weekend on Twitch. You can see the Evo Fighting Championships for these games. Are these games the ones you think that should have been representative, or is there something else that are in there? And let me give you the list again. It's Tekken 7, Super Smash Brothers Wii U, Street Fighter 5 Arcade Edition, Guilty Gear Xrd R2, Dragon Ball Z, Super Smash Brothers Melee, Injustice 2, and also BlazBlue Cross Tag Battle. I said Killer Instinct earlier. I know that was just on the cut line, and that didn't quite make it. That was a specialty of our good friend Christian Daniel Zamudio. I think Killer Instinct might have been a good opportunity for that to shine. But I know there are other games that there are other fighting type games that might be of interest as well. What other games do you think might have actually been something that maybe Evo should have considered and maybe shown on this type of platform?
Okay, well, I mean, I can't really speak much for fighting games because, like I said, I don't play them that much. But I do have a particular fondness for Virtua Fighter because I remember owning that on the Sega Genesis. I think it's Virtua Fighter 2 or something. But yeah, I would like to see that maybe played because that I can resonate more with that because I do have a history with that franchise. But other than that, like, Virtua Fighter and Urgies, God Bless the Ring, like those are really only the two fighting franchises that I played. And in which case, like, I know they do have Cloud on Super Smash Brothers. So, maybe it's a genre I need to get into, but I can't really speak for what should and shouldn't be at Evo. But I'd have to actually sit down and watch it. I know we talk about it a lot, but I should probably one day actually sit down and watch this.
I was thinking maybe Marvel versus Capcom. That might have been one of those games that people might be interested in because of the relationships between Marvel that people could become familiar with, and that easily translates to a larger audience, plus the well-known names of Capcom as well. I know there was one more. It's right off the top of my head. Not Virtua Fighter. Oh, yeah. Also, as well, Soul Calibur. I know another Soul Calibur game is coming up soon. I believe being released. It's Soul Calibur 6. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's the new one with Geralt from The Witcher.
Yeah, absolutely. Soul Calibur 6 would have been a very timely inclusion as well. I thought either of those two would have been great additions to the Evo World Championship mix. So for me, it makes sense to have those involved because I have an affinity for both of those franchises. BlazBlue, Dragon Ball, BlazBlue, also as well Guilty Gear Xrd. I'm not real huge fans of. I'm not really fond of. But if you'd included those two in its place, that might have been better for me to watch more of what's going to go on this weekend at Evo. Plus, also Injustice 2. If as long as that's has well, actually, you know what? Mortal Kombat. Mortal Kombat not being in there as well is a major misstep for Evo. And I understand Mortal Kombat has its own type championship styles. In fact, that has been shown on a cable television format, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. So that to me is something that probably would have been more enticing than some of these other games that are being shown. But I understand that these games in the fighting game, I guess, fan collection out there, they really appreciate these type of games. And I think that these are the games that they're looking forward to. But I would have actually tossed in some others as well.
Yeah, it seems weird that Mortal Kombat's not in there because that is kind of the premier fighting game when people think about that and Street Fighter. But yeah, Mortal Kombat definitely surprises me because that is, growing up, every kid wanted to play Mortal Kombat. Back when I was a kid, Mortal Kombat had all the controversy that Grand Theft Auto has now. So it seems weird to me that would not be played at Evo.
I agree with you on that, but they're playing it's, I guess, PG-13 like sister PG-13 like sister in Injustice 2, which comes from pretty much the same heritage as the Mortal Kombat series. I believe it's an Ed Boon creation as well. So I guess if we can't get Mortal Kombat, that's, I guess, as close as we're going to get to it. So there are some subtle changes I would make as far as the game lineup to it, but I would probably also have gone out of my way to secure a license or a partnership with a broadcast or cable television company out there that would have shown the series finales in a larger light. You still have your relationship with Twitch. You could still run it simultaneously. You still have the hardcore audience that's tuned into almost every match all weekend long on Twitch. Why not go in all the way and show yourself as the large entity that many feel you are? What are your thoughts on this weekend's Evo 2018 fighting tournament? Are you excited for the World Championships of Fighting Games? Are you going to be tuned in all weekend long on Twitch? Are you kind of disappointed it's not on a larger platform like an ESPN, a TNT, a TBS that has shown esports in the past and shown them in a positive light? Share us your thoughts, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Also as well, Pop Culture Cosmos, Humanica Media, and Game Source on Facebook and Twitter as well. Well, like I said, it's going to be a great, great, great episode we've got for you right here today on the PCC Multiverse. Again, we've got Rob McCallum coming up in the Cosmic Crossfire talking pop culture as only he can. Plus, he's got a great offer for anyone out there that's looking to be part, or that has a great idea on pop culture, that's looking to be part of a documentary or something special like that. And he'll explain coming up right after the break, plus talk pop culture with me as well. And hey, nothing bad about that. That's for sure. This is a PCC Multiverse. And we're back with the PCC Multiverse. Once again, this is Gerald Glassford along with my good friend Josh Peterson. Just want to let everyone know, if you need a listing of where we're at, what we're being played on, because we're on radio 7 days a week, not only online, but over the air stations. You can just check us out on our social media, Twitter and Facebook, Pop Culture Cosmos. You'll see the schedule right there. If you delve into our Facebook page, Pop Culture Cosmos, you'll actually see a listing of many of those stations and also a lot of the podcast networks we're affiliated with as well. If you like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, podcast.com, Podbean, any one of those, plus over 30 more podcast networks. I tell you what, we're on almost virtually every podcast player out there. So give us a shot. Make sure you like us. Make sure you go ahead and support us, and also as well, make sure you subscribe to any one of our networks out there. And if you do, it is truly, truly appreciated. Josh, you've got a great thing going on with Humanica Media, my friend, and I know you got a lot of stuff cooking on the plate. So tell me, what's going on with your great network known as Humanica Media?
Topicocalypse. We just put up a new episode of our Arbiter review, our review of Hope's Fall's new album Arbiter today. So you can check that out this morning. We also popped up an interview of Gerald here's interview with Jason Williams of Flesh Gordon. Did he write a book? What was the deal with that?
Well, that's what he was promoting. He is on the promotional trail for his book, I Was Flesh Gordon, which he co-wrote with which he co-wrote with an author. Actually, he was approached for the concept of this idea. He was working with his co-author on another project, and it just so happened to come up that he mentioned, yes, he was Flesh Gordon back in the 70s when that major movie came out. He actually talks a little bit about that, plus also the relationship between Flesh Gordon and Star Wars, how it influenced Star Wars, and how it's remembered actually as part of being that whole influential thing for the Star Wars universe today. He talks a little bit about that, plus also as well life in the 70s as a star, and some of the things he did with other stars, and also just a little bit behind the scenes as far as what went on during the shooting of Flesh Gordon, and a lot about his career after Flesh Gordon as well. We delve into that. In fact, he is an Emmy award-winning producer, and I bet a lot of people didn't know that. But yes, I actually approached him on that and asked about his thoughts on that as well, plus a lot more. Again, it was a great it was an almost an hour interview. It was almost an hour-long interview. I really found it enjoyable, and I hope you do too. And it is part of the Topicocalypse channel you can get right now on Podbean. Anything else going on, my friend? Because I know you did some major updates as well.
Yeah, that was for the Pop Culture Cosmos channel. So
that's okay. That's okay.
And we'll launch that here soon.
Okay. Well, this part will be smooth out. And I know as well you're going to be on Tuesdays, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific on the Podcast Radio Network. Check it out, Attack of the Humanicans. Josh, I know some major updates came out this week for a lot of games. They usually come out each and every week, but there were two games in particular that caught my eye with some major updates. And that you could say they're expansions, you could say they're free updates, free add-ons, what have you. They were two updates which, depending on the individual, really enhanced the game and made it possible that for a lot of people who either have delved into it or are looking possibly to delve into both No Man's Sky and also Sea of Thieves. I know you've got a chance to play the Sea of Thieves expansion that just came out, which was part of that major update. First, go into your thoughts with the Sea of Thieves expansion. Is this something that people should be interested in? Sea of Thieves originally came out as something that was very hyped by Microsoft, that even though it's got quite a few downloads and got quite a bit of interest on the Xbox Game Pass, may have not lived up critically to everyone's expectations. Is it time to go back on the ship and go raiding again as a pirate de jour?
Yes and no. See, with Sea of Thieves, it has no progression system, so there's not really any incentives to play the game. What's fun about it is getting on and playing with your friends. So that's like the big motivating factor for me, is to play with like Big Dog and Brian Kane on Xbox Live. But once we get out there and we do enough missions, we play around for a few hours, we get into a few fights with other pirate ships, it kind of loses its flair. With the expansions, I think the expansions are going to be the only thing that actually brings players back to the game, because if they don't keep creating content, there's not gonna, people are just gonna be like, okay, well, I played that for a bit. Now, time to go on to Destiny or Call of Duty or something like that. But with this expansion, it's fun and then it isn't fun, because it does have a story to play through, but it's hard to play it with friends. So you really, Sea of Thieves is at its core, it's a multiplayer game, or it's an MMO at its core, or it wants to be. There's not really a lot to do, on that front. But so usually on those types of games, like you get your missions, and then you can go and do, like, you're in a party with people or in a group, a clan, whatever, you hit the mission objectives and everybody gets it. And this one, you do the story that they put out there, and everyone has to do it. Every single player has to do it separately. So it got really confusing at some points, where we had to go back and, have Big Dog follow me around to the different mission points, so we could keep doing this thing. But the big thing that they added was the ghost ships. So you can be out sailing, and then they have these red flags when you hit the outpost, and if the flag is red, it means that there's a ghost ship out there for you to catch. But if it's white, it means that somebody already did it. So you go to the place the flag tells you to go, and you have to be there at a certain time, and then the ghost ship pops up. And so you basically have to take out this ghost ship, and then you get incentives for not incentives, but you get special items. Like, there's a cannonball that when you shoot it at your enemy ship, it'll make all the players on the other boat dance instead of being able to fire cannons back at you. So they have something like that. But the thing is, like, it's it's specific to the world. It's not specific to the people. So, like, they don't have more than one. So if someone already does it that day, it doesn't come back for I want to say it has like a spawn point of like 2 or 3 hours. But like, it's more of a community event than anything else. Like, the expansion does have a story mode that you can play along with, but it's more of the same. Like, you have expectations for Sea of Thieves, and I like playing it, but again, the only reason I played is because I can play with my friends. It's not something I get on there and play by myself. So I think if there's a lot of notes that they can take for Sea of Thieves 2, should that come to fruition, like a progression system, or really just a point to play the game, like something to drive the story forward to keep you in the game. Because everyone kept saying, like, why are people going to play Skull and Bones if Sea of Thieves is like that? But Skull and Bones actually looks like a more rounded game. So if you can play that with your buddies, then I don't think many people are going to keep playing Sea of Thieves.
That's what I wanted to ask you. Sea of Thieves was just recently announced going over the 5 million player threshold just before this expansion launch. And by the way, the expansion is called Curse Sales. I want to ask you this. If it were not have been a day one inclusion into the Xbox Game Pass, which has been one of the big successes of the Xbox One since its inception, do you think on its own, as a $60 freestanding game, do you think it would have found do you think it would have found the success that it has now, which is pretty good, not tremendous, obviously, not anywhere near Fortnite level or any major game level, have you, but still 5 million players is nothing to sneeze at. But do you think it would have found that kind of marketplace, that kind of consumer interest, if it had not been an early inclusion into the Xbox Game Pass?
Uh, no, I don't think so, honestly, because the reviews coming out the gate for the game would have I think it would have killed it on day one if they had not included it in Game Pass. A lot of people Because a lot of people picked it up, basically, they had Game Pass, and it was basically free for them. But as far as people who went out and paid $60, I don't know many people, with the exception of Big Dog, that actually went out and played and paid $60 for it. But I do know a lot of people who have played it, and they've all said that they would not go out and spend $60 on it.
Now, there was another game, like I said, that got also a major update, which is causing a lot of talk out there amongst gamers about possibly either delving into it the first time, or going back into again, and that is No Man's Sky. And this is something that you and I talked about way back when, a couple years ago, in regards to when it first came out with a lot of hype, a lot of backing from PlayStation. It was something that gave a lot of interest to everybody out there, including myself, as far as what the possibilities could be. And then it came out, and even though it sold hot right out of the gate, it really let everyone down as far as what you could do within the game, and kind of disappointed everybody, similar to what Sea of Thieves has done because of the middling ratings and whatnot that came out at that time. There's been a major inclusion in No Man's Sky, which was a single player game, even though they said that theoretically you could actually see someone, but you couldn't interact with them. They've now made it, and they've now, with updates, turned it into a multiplayer game with a lot of expansion, a lot of things that have been added, new abilities, but also as well new things that you can do within the context of the game that make it much more interesting. So I ask you, with this huge update, is it time to get back into No Man's Sky? And do you think it could really become the game which we were all hoping it would be when it originally came out on the PlayStation 4?
Yeah, I mean, I think the potential's there, but let me ask you this. With all these, we got gaming season is right around the corner. So I mean, it really, if people are going to jump back into it, it'll probably only be for a couple months because, you got big titles like Red Dead coming out, Assassin's Creed, like all the big titles that were shown off at E3, a majority of them are coming out within the next month or two. So, I it's that's what I guess in general, do you think that when they make when they improve games like this, because from what I understand, Mass Effect Andromeda is a more complete experience right now, but just knowing that, especially a game like No Man's Sky, would that be enough to get you to go back to play it if you had like say a game coming out in like 3 or 4 weeks that you wanted to play? Would that be enough to get you? Would you spend that time playing it, or we just wait for another game to come out?
Well, if I had Mass Effect Andromeda, if I had Mass Effect Andromeda give me the bad taste in my mouth that it gave a lot of other players when going through 20, 30 hours of it, and you're asking me to go back into it again, even though you've really filled out the game a lot nicer, that's a hard thing to ask for. And I know a lot of people have had a really I guess a disappointing time with No Man's Sky originally. So asking a lot of those players to go back for stuff that you should have included into the game in the first place is a really hard sell. I think at this point, PlayStation should just market it to people who were not familiar with the game because the game came out 2 years ago, who have not been introduced to it and are just getting to know it now, or individuals such as myself who were thinking about it, saw the reviews, decided to go ahead and veer into another direction, but always had in the back of my mind, maybe I could have tried it down the line or whatnot. And now it's actually teetering in my favor as far as something that I might want to try, at least give it a little bit of a time, 2, 3, 4 hours, and see where I can go from there. That I think they should do, as opposed to try and market it to maybe people coming back into the game after they had such a disappointing experience. Same thing with Mass Effect Andromeda. You could actually say at this point in time, I would probably market it if I was EA at all, or just try and reach people out on social media and say, hey, this is really for someone who wants the experience fresh or has it new, because for someone who has played it already, it's going to be really a hard sell to get them back involved in the game.
Well, even the sorry, my mic wasn't muted there. Even the idea of telling someone, "Hey, we fixed all this stuff," it still has and you're selling it for like a price point of $30 to $60 for that, say. But, still, even when I go out and buy a game, I read their reviews before I do it. So if I come across something that's like, and I think to myself, "Oh, hey, this has been kind of not well received by people," and now they're telling me that it is, maybe I shouldn't buy this game. I should buy something else and then kind of wait till this one hits, a sale on Black Friday or something. A bugged game that is fixed and has a couple new things added onto it, I would not be running out to spend money on it right away.
I agree. And in the case of, well, let's say at this point in time, No Man's Sky and also Mass Effect Andromeda, if they go on major sales, and you and I both seen Mass Effect Andromeda on major sales from time to time, where it's actually sold in the $9.99 range, that to me would be more appealing and to get involved in the game as a whole. With No Man's Sky, if it goes under $20 on a permanent basis, and you've added the inclusion with all these updates and things of that nature, to me that makes it even more enticing. But if you're still trying to sell it for 30, 40, $50, that to me is not going to be a thing that I'm going to go ahead and clamor for as well. When it comes to Sea of Thieves, you're right. You're right, Josh. In the first place, what we were talking about earlier, that it is not a great buy at a $60 price point, which you can buy it now for, or even a $40 price point. But as part of the Xbox Games Pass, it is a great inclusion. And if you're already playing 2, 3, 4, 5 other games from that arsenal that they've got in the library of the Xbox Game Pass, and as part of your monthly fee, then I don't see the problem with getting involved and getting into Sea of Thieves at this point in time.
Yeah, like there needs to be an incentive to play it. Like, uh, if No Man's Sky were part of the Xbox Games Pass, then yeah, I could totally see myself playing it. But if it's something I got to go out and spend $30 on, uh, like I said, I would not be in any hurry to pick that up unless I knew a lot of people picking it up to play it. In which case, I might reconsider it. But otherwise, I'd probably just wait till it either drops or I can buy it cheap, like a GameStop used game sale or something. I would wait until I can get it cheaper for a price that I'm comfortable spending on a game that may or may not be that great.
I couldn't agree with you more, my friend, on that. And if anybody out there is interested in No Man's Sky, Sea of Thieves, or even Mass Effect Andromeda at this point in time, wait until the price really drops on it. I guess a great sale that's out there that PlayStation or Xbox runs from time to time, or in the case of Xbox One owners, if you are really interested in the Sea of Thieves and the new expansion, make sure you get it off the Games Pass, and then you can go ahead and try it along with whatever games that they've added into that arsenal, because the Xbox Games Pass in and of itself is a great value as long as you're utilizing it. What are your thoughts out there on the games that we're talking about with major updates that are added to it? Is it time to get back into No Man's Sky and Sea of Thieves? Share us your thoughts, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Also as well, Pop Culture Cosmos, Humanica Media, and Game Source on Facebook and Twitter as well. Well, coming up right after the break, once again, we've got Ron McCallum with another edition of the Cosmic Crossfire. He's coming back with more great talk, more great pop culture talk. And right after that, Josh and I will be back talking Apple. It's reached $1 trillion. Where do they go from here? We're going to speculate on that. Right after the break. This is the PCC Multiverse. And we're back to close out the show. This is Gerald Glassford along with Josh Peterson. Josh, can I ask you a simple question, my friend?
No. Yeah.
Well, what?
Maybe. Sure. Yeah. Let's do it. Ask away.
Why, when it first came out, when you were, I guess, maybe a young lad, why didn't you go up to your parents and say, Mommy, Daddy, why aren't you investing in Apple?
Because Apple made not very great products, if I remember correctly. The one time that I was actually brought into light of what Apple made was in the 3rd grade when I walked into the computer lab in my school and they had all the different colored Apple computers. That was the first time I was aware that Apple was a thing.
And from when I was working at a computer store that sold Macs, which was, I guess, a second place to the I guess, burgeoning at that time Commodore Amiga market, which we were selling a lot more of as a specialty retailer. We started somewhat getting into Macs, a little bit more, a little bit more, a little more. Then we got into it big time, and it started to take off in the mid 90s from a home computer standpoint. But you're right, the overall quality compared to PCs wasn't where it needed to be. But in the 2000s, something changed, my friend. The advent of the smartphones really came into play, and wouldn't you know it, Apple really took off as far as that's concerned. Everybody knows the iPhone now. The iPhone has been something of a dynamo in this century, and obviously it's been a major reason why, along with a lot of other great steps that have helped Apple to become a $1 trillion company. $1 trillion, man. I can't. It's hard. It's almost hard to say, really, as far as that's concerned. So I ask you, my friend, $1 trillion down, $1 trillion down. What does Apple need to do? Maybe even a little bit more, or what they haven't even developed or haven't even been introduced yet to the marketplace that they can explore in order to get even more money at this point in time.
I think the next step for them would be like appliances. Not like TV, not sorry, not like refrigerators and stuff, but like TVs, video game consoles. Like I can see them doing something like that because there are a bunch of like Steam boxes out there, but Apple doesn't really have anything of its own. And
Well, it
it's
has like an Apple TV at this point in time, but I mean, that's their version of, like, let's say, the Google Roku stick or the
right,
Amazon Fire or anything like
right.
that.
But they don't have like an actual they have iOS has gaming, but they don't have an actual console, like something that, say like a Final Fantasy could be released on. Like you could buy it's just a box. You could buy a game to go into it, or you can just purchase off the iTunes marketplace. I could see them getting into that market much like Microsoft did.
And Google is going to, because they've announced that they're actually in development of a console.
Yeah, yeah, and whether or not it's the right time for that to happen, we don't know. But that's the next step I can see them taking, and because I know they're already getting into the original content market, but that's such a small market in the greater scheme of what it is that Apple does. So the next, I could see them continue. They're already at the top of their game in cell phones, computers, stuff like that. It would be video games and like televisions and stuff like that. Like I think that would be the next evolution for them.
I agree with you, but also for me, it's something that both Rob and I have alluded to in our conversations in previous Cosmic Crossfires, and that's the entertainment side of things. I know that they've garnered a relationship with Oprah Winfrey about producing shows for their medium. That's actually, to me, a brilliant step. But I see that this is just the tip of the iceberg as far as where they can go and the kind of resource they can allot to it, as Apple becoming a entertainment medium, which is something that Rob McCallum has also alluded to as well. And we've seen already the kind of money that Netflix and other entities are willing to throw around. Amazon, in regards to Lord of the Rings, $500 million there. Netflix committing what, 10 to 15 billion dollars as far as new programming as well. So I see Apple really becoming invested into this market if they wish to, and if they want to, and if they decide to go into it full board, they could be a major player in the entertainment industry.
Oh, I agree. And I honestly like we always joke that it'd be Apple and Disney competing to see who rules the world one day, but Apple really does, out of all the companies out there that has a foothold enough to kind of become an entertainment tyrant, much like Disney. I think Apple is better positioned than anybody else.
This is true, and with $1 trillion in the kitty right now, they are indeed the biggest player on the market, the baddest boy on the block, and the big man on campus. What are your thoughts on Apple hitting $1 trillion? Are you excited for it? Are you an Apple fan? Do you love your iPhone and your iPad and your iMac and all that good stuff. Are you using it right now and you're watching us on your Apple TV? Share us your thoughts, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Also as well, Pop Culture Cosmos, Humanic Media, and Game Source on Facebook and Twitter as well. Or do you like Google, or are you just have you just had enough of these technology companies really trying to show off and throw their money and throw their weight around? Share us your thoughts on that too, because we really love to hear your thoughts, not only what we talked about today when it comes to Apple and the technology market, but everything relating to pop culture as well. So, Josh, any last thoughts on the way out? Like I said, like I said before, it's Evo weekend. Hope everybody gets a chance to check out the action, and best of luck to Christian Daniel Zamudio. Be trying to check you out on. Hopefully, you'll be streaming on Twitch, my friend. And any last thoughts, man, on the way out?
Yeah, next time we talk, I want to talk about the absurdity of the storyline in Doom, because I'm playing my first Doom game on Xbox One right now, and even for a video game, it is just absolutely absurd. It's like Jurassic Park, but worse.
And that's funny to hear because it is such a highly acclaimed game. You're talking the reboot, is that correct?
Yeah, no, I mean the game is fun. I want to talk about how unbelievable the story is, even for like a video game. Like why you would do what they did in the game and think to yourself, "Oh, that's a good idea."
Well, it's that all. It's all about that space. It's all about that It's all about that space marine being trapped up on Mars. And if I remember correctly, it meant a lot of death and destruction to a lot of alien beings going after the beloved space marine in that game. Plus, also, we're going to be talking about the box office with Mission Impossible. Can it hit number one for a second week, or will Christopher Robin or another movie come into play and lead the not only domestic but the worldwide box office as well? And also, Tyler Baker is coming back and coming back strong with his thoughts in the coming episodes in regards to choices that you need to think about when you're going ahead and building and drafting your fantasy football team. He's got his thoughts on the best players and also maybe some sneaky, unexpected picks that you can pick up in at quarterback, wide receiver, running back, and what have you. He's going to be talking about that in the coming episodes as well. So for Josh Peterson, this is Gerald Glassford. It's another beautiful day in paradise right here in the PCC Multiverse. We thank you for listening. And here's hoping you have yourself a great day.